Welcome to Life Unrehearsed. My name's Matt Delvecchio. We'll get started here at Corrie. I specialize in life transitions, elder care planning, and the senior living industry.
And I'm Corrie Matt, a clinical social worker and psychotherapist specializing in grief and loss.
Coming up on today's show, hear the captivating true story of the Rechtschaffen family's heroic journey through brutally unimaginable circumstances. We'll have the author of the book that details this incredible story.
Which I can't wait to hear. But first, Matt, you look rather spiffy today. Where are you going?
You know, I'm going with Stephanie, my wife. We're heading right after the show. We're going to go to the World Press Photo Exhibition. It's been on the news. It's at Marché Bon Secours. And it actually wraps up. It's been going for a few weeks. It wraps up this weekend. So we're going to head there and maybe grab a meal in Old Montreal. We'd love to see these. It's a contest, actually, of these world best photos. So that's where we'll be heading. Hey, and if you haven't seen it, it closes tomorrow. So either today or tomorrow. And Corrie, what do we have coming up on the second half?
On the second half, as our population ages, families and their loved ones have to deal with some challenging decisions. Learn some important ways elder care planning has become a feasible, accessible, and invaluable service for our community.
Yeah, I can't wait. And it is National Seniors Day today, actually, October 1st. So kind of timely for that elder care planning segment.
Absolutely, always is. So, but before we do that, very important, and we have a very special guest on the line, Candace Rechtschaffen-Gillhoolley, that's a mouthful and a half, is the author of Last Stop, Duisburg, A Family's Escape from Pogroms and the Holocaust. Basically, it's a family's heroic story to keep hope alive against unimaginable brutality during extraordinary times and their constant faith while surrounded by anti-Semitism. The Rechtschaffens actually navigated through incredible obstacles, and their history is truly a testament to the courage and the enduring faith, and their story actually exposes the best and the worst in humanity, and in which humanity has to offer. So a little bit about Candace. She was born in New York City. She grew up in Scarsdale, New York. She attended Bernard College of Columbia University and double majored in English and Women's Studies. She immigrated to Montreal, Quebec, where she lives with her husband, Sean, of 25 years, and her two teenagers. Candace, welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So let's start right away. It's a fascinating, even just the title of the book even. So I want to know what was the motivation that led you to writing an autobiographical story?
Thank you for your question. You know, I've been thinking about this for a while, and the truth is I wanted to bring my father back to life for my children. I lost my father 25 years ago. And I started having children, about, 17 years ago. And as I was telling them the stories that I grew up with, because, storytelling is so very important to so many different cultures, in our life. And I was telling them these stories, and I realized that I needed to put these stories down. I needed to testify to them. I needed to make sure that everybody would know them that was interested, and I needed to make sure my children understood where they came from. And I always wanted to write a book, and through this journey, I realized that the book was my own story.
I love that, and I think listeners that are listening I think many people would want to do what you're doing. You went out and did it, and this is your debut book, Candace. And obviously, a lot of time, energy went into writing and putting it all together. And next thing you know, you actually are holding the final version in your hands. I'd love to know. We're going to hear about the book, but I'd love to know just how did you feel actually reading the story of your family's life in the book that you wrote?
Honestly, it was surreal. I was proud. I was grateful. There were moments when I was reading, and it was this out-of-body experience where I was like, wow, this is a really good story. And then I stopped, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, I wrote it. And I just was so very proud of every single word that's in it and every single moment. I mean, it took me a decade to write it. So I'm really proud of it.
As you should be. As you should be. You're listening to Life Unrehearsed with Corrie and Matt, and we're talking with Candace Rechtschaffen-Gillhoolley. She's the author of Last Stop, Duisburg, A Family's Escape from Pogroms and the Holocaust. And I want to talk a little bit about the book. So tell us about the pogroms and the other obstacles your family faced.
Well, to tell you, by definition, a pogrom is an organized massacre of a particular ethnic group. And that ethnic group tends to be Jewish people in Russia or Eastern Europe. And when I ran my DNA through Ancestry, and it came back as 100% ethnically Eastern European, I had to really take note and find out where I came from. And to understand that the pogroms, by definition, have legitimately shaped my entire family's history as far back as I was able to trace it, which was into about the late 1600s. And as for the Nazi Holocaust, perhaps the ultimate pogrom of the 20th century, my family escaped in July 1939. Moments before Germany invaded Poland and the official beginning of World War II began. So at every turn, I needed people to understand that when you are born Jewish, you're born with a target on your back. And when a nation or a person has an opportunity to enslave and take away a marginalized group of people's power, then you have to stand up and you have to say this is wrong, and everyone has to stand together to never let another pogrom happen, and let this word not have the kind of meaning that it still has even today.
That's Candace Rechtschaffen-Gillhoolley, and she's talking about her book that she wrote and her family's escape from pogroms and the Holocaust. Very deep and emotional, I'm sure, as you were writing this, Candace. And you might have mentioned at earlier onset, I'm heading down to this World Press photo exhibition, and the use of photos in your book is very powerful. You chose that purposely, I'm assuming, to have a lot of photos in the book, didn't you?
Absolutely. It was really important. I'm very blessed that I have the documentation, right? And growing up, I remember my father taking all the photos that was left behind from his grandmother and his grandfather and all of his history. And he had this, and I used to sit with him in the basement, and we would just have these long talks as I was a kid. And he'd show me these photos. He'd show me the pictures of him in his bar mitzvah. I mean, we're talking about back in like the 40s and the 50s. And all these pictures really held life to me. And then when he passed away, I respectfully asked my family if it was okay if I could be the keeper of the history. And then I got to be the keeper of it. And then these photos immortalize the story. And I want people to understand that these stories are true. These people are real. And you see their faces, but I want you to hear their words.
It must have been so powerful to sit down with those photos and collect them and look at them and go through them. I think pictures speak 1,000 words. Isn't that the expression? I could continue to talk to you, but we have to go on a traffic update. But when we come back, I know that a big part of the story is about hope. So we're going to hear from Candace about what role hope played in the whole process and experience and the journey of her family. And we are talking to Candace Rechtschaffen-Gillhoolley, the author of Last Stop, Duisburg, A Family's Escape from Pogroms and the Holocaust. And it's a very, very heartfelt, very powerful book, as you can just even hear from the title. I've certainly had the privilege of seeing it, reading. Didn't read all of it, but I read snippets of it. And what was really striking to me is there's a lot of hope that is the sentiment expressed. So can you talk to our listeners about what role hope plays in the story?
Well, thank you for asking me. I believe hope is the belief that with the help of God or a higher power or being that you believe in will help you survive. To me, hope is the blood that courses through your body. Hope is love. Love of life, love of living.
And Candace, as you're speaking, I can't stop but think about when you're preparing, and you mentioned how many years did you say it took? Was it
a decade?
A decade, a decade, and you must have had a roller coaster of emotions, and trying to gather facts, and as you mentioned, getting these photos and putting it all together. At the end of it all, Candace, can you tell us what you learned about humanity?
I think that's a fantastic question, right? I believe that humanity can come in many shapes and forms. Nothing in life, at least for me, is in black and white. It's all in shades of gray. And everyone has an opportunity to make the right choice and to do the right thing. At the same time, every person can also choose to look away and not act. So humanity is not only choosing to act, but knowing that if you don't act, you have become part of what you hate the most.
Very powerful words that you are sharing with us today. That's the voice of Candace Rechtschaffen-Gillhoolley, the author of Last Stop Duisburg, A Family's Escape from Pogroms and the Holocaust. Let me ask you, what messages do you want to send your readers as they pick up and read your book?
Number one, I want them to know that not all Germans were bad. I really want people to understand that the Jews thrived in Germany for centuries. And this is not a history that's discussed. What is constantly discussed is the hiccup in time where a truly magnetic, diabolical, depraved human being could capture the hearts and minds of truly intelligent people and convince them that what they wanted was what he wanted was normal. And everyone needs to understand that it's important to understand how a society can break down from a democracy into a fascist dictatorship in a very short amount of time with a very few amount of people holding the strings. Mm-hmm. And we all must be vigilant, and we all must always stand by and reach out to others to help other people reach up and join you.
So true, and so glad we have you, Candace, because this is the essence of the show, Life Unrehearsed, because this is truly Life Unrehearsed and is how you deal with this. And so I want to hear, Candace, a debut author, fantastic, getting lots of coverage. So how's the response been to the book so far? And I want to hear about your experience as well through the whole process.
Well, number one, I'll be really honest, the response has been great. It's been really
well, that's a good
yeah. I have, I think, like 11 5-star reviews on Amazon. It's selling out internationally. I went with a European publisher, so I'm selling everywhere, in the UK, in Germany, in France, in Italy, in Canada, in the States. So that makes me really happy. It's funny, I'm hearing more and more how much people are enjoying the letters that are written mm-hmm. between the characters. Because, it's a way that you can also talk about globally what's happening in history, but not have it feel pedantic, but have it feel like it's happening to you. And it's all about, not telling, but showing. And then you become a witness to the history yourself.
So, yeah. So I'm glad to hear that it's such a positive response. I'm actually curious about your family. You wrote it for your family initially. How have your kids responded and other family members?
I'll be honest with you, my husband is like so proud. It's just so sweet. I mean, I love him to death. And you must be honest, like he has read it in so many iterations. And the funny part is that he actually is now just beginning the final, like reading the book, because I changed and I added a lot more of a love story at the way end, because I wanted people to understand how my grandparents loved each other. And there is a lot of love, like there's a lot of beauty in this story, and it's not a story that starts in 1942 that is all about the concentration camps. Like, this story goes back into the 1850s, and you learn about where these people from in the foothills of the Carpathian Mountains, and how generationally they move on and up and on and up, and to achieve more and have great lives. And my son is very, very proud. And my daughter, she's the one that did the photo credit. She's an amazing photographer. And I wanted her, I'm very proud of the photo credit for her. It's really great. I got to tell you, my mother calls me an authoress like every night. It's super cute.
I love it. Oh, that's Candace Rechtschaffen-Gillhoolley, and Corrie and I are smiling here and listening to you, and as your family should be proud for what you've done. You've got the bug, I'm sure, Candace. Real quickly, any aspirations for more book writing?
Oh, absolutely, and I'll name it here so no one else can take it. I'm writing the story of my mother's family now, because she said, if you're doing it for Daddy, what about Mommy? So I'm writing my mother's family story, and my mother's family story is going to be titled From Odessa to Hollywood, and that's where my mother's people come. They come from Odessa, so you can only imagine everything that you're seeing on the news right now. And those are my people. So, and then how they came to America and they ended up in Hollywood. So you'll get to see how the other side of my family came to be.
I love it. All right, trademark it, From Odessa to Hollywood. That's coming up next. We want to thank you, Candace, very, very much. How can people get a hold of your book?
You can get it on Amazon.ca, you can on Amazon.com, also BarnesandNoble.ca, as well as my website, CandaceGillhoolley.com.
Love it.
Yes, .com, yes.
All right, Candace. Originally from New York, now a proud Montrealer. That's Candace Rechtschaffen-Gillhoolley, and she's the author of Last Stop, Duisburg, A Family's Escape from Pogroms and the Holocaust. Thank you very much, Candace. And what do we have coming up next on Life Unrehearsed, Corrie?
Coming up on Life Unrehearsed, as our population ages, families and their loved ones have to deal with some challenging decisions. We're going to learn some important ways elder care planning has become feasible, accessible, and invaluable as a service for our community. And we're going to hear from that. We have a guest named Kristen Bennett, who's going to be sharing her wisdom with us.